same questions since we have a rather large panel. We don't want it to get repetitive. With that being said, I'd like to start off with you all introducing yourself, giving the school that you attend, the year you are in school, and one hobby. We'll start with Jennifer Hutchins.
Sorry. Yes, I'm Jennifer Hutchins. I'm from Stetson University College of Law. I am about to start my second year this fall, and one hobby would be running.
Thanks, Jennifer. Next, we're going to go to Jenna Lee.
Hi all, my name is Jenna Lee. I'm a rising 2L at Savannah Law School, and I just started piano lessons as a hobby.
Thank you. Thank you, Jenna. Next, we're going to go to Benjamin McLawhorn.
Hello, everyone. My name is Benjamin McLawhorn. I'm a rising 2L at North Carolina Central University's Albert R. Turner School of Law, and one hobby of mine is I enjoy playing guitar.
Thanks, Benjamin. Next, we're going to go to Renee Morency. Hope I pronounced that correct.
Yeah, you did. You did perfectly. That's pretty good. Yes, I'm Renee Morency. I attend Washington University School of Law. I'm entering my final year. And one hobby or interesting thing is I like to swim, bike, and run.
All right. Thank you, Renee. I'm with you. I'm actually training to hike a 14er up in Colorado right now. So let's hope I don't die. We don't have Andrea, so next we'll go to John Weber.
Thanks, Chase. My name is John Weber. I am a rising 2L, which still feels a little weird to say, at the University of Louisville Brandeis School of Law. My hobbies, I guess one to choose would be playing and teaching drums and percussion. I play at my church, and we've got a Lollapalooza concert type of Battle of the Bands thing coming up that we will compete in.
Very cool. All right, so I'm going to begin the questions now, and this first question I want all of you to answer. Should be varied depending on your individual experiences. So since we started with Jennifer, this time I'm going to start with you, John. And the question is, what previous leadership experience do you have both within and outside of the ABA that you feel qualifies you to be a delegate?
Sure. I think that experience in an election like this is one that is very important, and I think that it's one where I can excel and really benefit the Law Student Division. So I've got experience on a regional and national level already through a variety of organizations, one being the ABA. I am the current Sixth Circuit governor, and so I work to represent students across 3 states and coordinate a team of more than 15 lieutenant governors and deputy lieutenant governors to really benefit law students. So I know how to make an impact and a difference even when I'm not face-to-face on a campus. I was involved in a political organization in college where I held national positions, and again, it's just something that I'm comfortable with. And then third, I've had opportunities to work with legislators both in Frankfurt, which is our state capital, and Washington, D.C. Most recently, I went up for an ACC conference advocacy day. And so that's something that the ABA, has a similar event, and something that I think that I could really bring good experience to the position of delegate.
Thanks, John. Next, I'm going to ask Renee the same question. If you need me to repeat it, just let me know.
Sure. My understanding of the question is, what experience do I have that's going to sort of bring value to this position, more or less, right? A number of things. So the good news is that I have not just breadth of experience, but also depth of experience. So most sort of immediately relevant is the fact that I've been very active with our local bar association, which is the Bar Association of Metropolitan St. Louis. I'm on the WILD board of our local bar association. I represent our university on that board, but I am a full voting member and very active with the board, and have sort of been very added a lot of value, I think, in that position. In addition to that, I'm also active with our local African American Bar Association, which is the Mound City Bar Association. In addition to that, I have a lot of leadership roles that I've had at our school, right? So I've been the president of the Black Law Student Association. I've also been twice on the e-board of our Student Bar Association, of our SBA. In addition to that, I also have a lot of leadership outside of the law school as well, right? So not only do I understand how law students do things and how sometimes lawyers do things, but I also can bring a perspective of how people in the business community might do things, or people in the nonprofit community might do things. I also have a lot of experience in sort of governance of nonprofits, as well as in my experience as a consultant. So, in a nutshell.
Okay. Thank you, Renee. Next, we have Benjamin.
Yes. As a non-traditional student, this first year, I just kind of kept my head down and focused mainly on my grades. I got involved a little bit with our Student Bar Association as far as attending meetings. I just felt like that right then during my first year, I was not quite ready for a leadership position until I could prove a little bit to myself, that number one, I needed to be in law school. Number two, I was smart enough to do it. But I do have loads of experience from other areas. After graduating East Carolina University, I taught for a number of years at Pitt Community College. So I have management, classroom management skills, and also working with different policies which were in the state. I also worked in construction and industry and manufacturing for a number of years. So, I know the perseverance and the amount of work that is required to see a project from the beginning to the end, and to make sure that everything was, done by the book. And there's also team management, aspects there as well, and meeting deadlines and things of that nature. It also involves a heavy amount of cooperation with different individuals. You need to be able to work with near about anybody and have good communication skills with different types of people. I'm currently an intern at the Office of Legal Affairs at our school, where I've been helping draft policy, getting the Board of Trustees to vote on them, and also implementing the policies. We're trying to make a website now at school. So in my background, I have this policy experience, and I know that's what this whole delegate position is about. Is about being there representing the Law Student Division Board at the ABA House of Delegates, and it's all policy based. So.
Thank you, Benjamin.
Thank you.
Next, we have Jenna Lee.
Thank you. During my 1L year, I served as a law student coordinator for the street law program, where Savannah Law School students would go teach high school students the importance of knowing the law a couple hours a week. And with my position, I coordinated communication and lesson plans among the law students, the attorneys, and the high school students. So I'm used to communicating with high-ranking officials or administration from the high school, or just young high school students. And also through this volunteership, I was honored to be able to work with the ABA Law Student Division very closely. As a new school, we don't have much resources. So, the ABA Law Student Division recognizes us for our public service. So you guys offered us, resources and opportunities, such as getting a grant to facilitate with classes, or publishing us on the ABA blog for our public service. So with this position, I know that I have communication skills needed to speak with either attorneys, law students, ABA entities, or just law student division members. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenna. Next, we have Jennifer Hutchins.
Yes, I am also just starting my second year, so I haven't really gotten too far along with getting plugged in. I'm also a non-traditional student coming back to law school after having served in the private sector office management in other areas. I don't have a ton of experience in terms of the ABA directly. I did just get appointed onto our Stetson University Executive Board, and I'm going to be the chair of the community service group for the Student Bar Association for our school. So I look forward to participating in that this fall, but I haven't started that position quite yet. As far as outside of the ABA, I did work in private healthcare practice for 13 years and just did about everything from accounts payable to accounts receivable and everything in between, and worked, with companies both regionally and nationally in implementing electronic medical records and all sorts of human resources aspects of their business. So that's kind of what I bring to the table, and am hoping to correlate that with, my interest and learning of the law.
All right, thank you, Jennifer. So this next question is going to be for Renee, and it is, what is the most serious issues facing law students that you would like to tackle within the ABA Law Student Division?
There's a couple. I guess probably the biggest two that I've identified as sort of my causes are, there's three really. One has to do with accessibility, right? Making a law school education accessible to as many people as possible who are qualified to attend law school. And, what that looks like, that has to do with finances, that has to do with even how the admissions process is conducted. Number two, it has to do with the finances, right? Because obviously, no matter how well-to-do a student might be, there's no question that a law school education is not cheap, right? And sometimes it's a little bit of a bar to entry for some students, right? And even for those who make it in and make it through, the debt load can be pretty substantial. Now, I'm not sure what that looks like exactly, but I do know that there is a role to play for the ABA. There's a role for the ABA to play in figuring out how to make that burden a little bit easier to bear for students. And then the third is very, very heavy. It has to do with I guess, wellness. I'm concerned about, and I mentioned this in my statement, I'm concerned about how students, law firms, and schools, their fixation on the GPA, even razor-thin differences in GPA, can distort students' educational decisions, career options, and most importantly, mental health. Part of this has to do with the fact that, for example, just this past year, one of my buddies committed suicide, in fact, just a semester and a half ago. No one understands why this happened, right? Or how any of us could have prevented it, or whether any of us could have prevented it. But I do know one thing, and that is that the stresses and strains on mental health for students, as well as for attorneys, are not few. And I know that there's work being done on these things. I know, for example, that there is a program that the ABA has already initiated for that address. It's called Fit to Practice, and I think it comes out of the YLD actually, and it looks at a number of.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Renee. Your time is up, but I'll let you finish.
Sure thing. Well, just the fact that the ABA started to look at this, and I know the YLD started to look at this, but it's something that is essential for us to continue to, even as law students and as representatives to the House of Delegates, to really get behind it.
Thank you, Renee. And Benjamin, I'm going to ask you the same question. What do you think is the most serious issue facing law students that you would like to tackle within the ABA Law Student Division?
Okay, well, there are a few of them for sure. First thing I would say is that we need to increase our membership involvement within the division. We have around 70,000 members. I think that's that's only half of the actual number of law students that are in the nation right now, and the membership is free. So there's some kind of disconnect there where we're missing these vital students to get them, to encourage them to be active, whatever that takes. I know we have the Student Lawyer magazine, we have the podcasts, we have the other things, the Barbary, the Quimby, the other things that we have. There's got to be some other ways that we can get people active, and also we need to try to work on the public service loan programs, loan forgiveness programs. I think within the ABA we can increase those programs and work on reducing the debt for law students, because we all face this debt when we get out of law school, and that's just another aspect that can kind of relieve some of that stress that we all face. Also, I think one of the main things that we face that is really one of the biggest is the whole issue about adopting the UBE and getting the standardization, because along with having a UBE that's used through many different jurisdictions, that provides career mobility and longevity, because it's not just what do you do when you get out of law school, where are you going to go and practice, but 10 years from now when you have kids, and you want to move or you want to do other things, can you do that, or do you have to go sit down and take and study for another bar exam? I think those are real serious issues that face us, not just leaving law school, but also in the future as well. So those are the three main things that I would say that we need to work on: public service programs, increasing our membership involvement, and supporting a adoption of the UBE nationwide. Thank you.
Thank you, Benjamin. All right. So the next question is for John Weber, and it's going to be, what research did you do for the role of delegate, speaking with anyone, anything like that, and why do you think that this is the role best suited for you over other roles in the LSD?
Thanks. And before I even start, I just want to say, Renee, I've been through that situation as well. My condolences. I know how hard that is for you and your community. So yeah, I before I jump into anything like this, or put my name out there, especially on a national scale, I want to be sure that it's something that I want to do and that I can do well. And so, yes, I did that. I did some research looking through what has the ABA done? What kind of policy has come out of the House of Delegates? What does the structure look like? And we don't need to go into details about how the structure works. Hopefully you all know that by now. But for me, the most important thing was reaching out to the network that I've been able to develop while I've been in law school, especially through my time serving in the ABA. So first, my school was kind enough to put out a piece saying that I was elected circuit governor. Well, I got a call from the former president of the American Bar Association. He's in his 80s, and he wanted to take me out to lunch and immediately recommended this type of position. So picking his brain, he presided over such discussions as advertising in the legal profession, and was a defendant in the lawsuit when all that was going down. So finding out what we've done, where we've come from as the American Bar Association representing this profession, was really valuable to him. And then I've reached out to some of the current delegates just to see, what have you all done? What are you proud of? Where do you want to go? Because we need to pick up the baton, and we're going to have to get things across the finish line that they've started working on, in some cases for 3 years when we're talking about the UBE or paid externships and things like that have dragged on for a while. If we try to reinvent the wheel every single time someone's elected, this position will never get
I'm sorry, John, your time is up. You can finish your thought.
That's it. Just using my network to reach out to people, to pick up where hopefully they left off rather than starting from scratch.
And next we have Jenna Lee. It'll be the same question. What research did you do for this role? What makes you best suited for this role? And have you spoken with anyone about it?
Jenna, you're still muted.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Initially, when I applied for the position, I reached out to all 3 current delegates, so I didn't break any guidelines. I asked them what it was like, and the current delegates are very nice and welcoming and very supportive. So I asked all three of them, and then I went to my dean and I asked her what she knows about the ABA House of Delegates and what she feels about this. She pulled out a big phone book, book, and showed me like the ABA House of Delegates, how many sections and houses we have. So yes, I did extensive research. I also watched the YouTube videos on the ABA's website, and I studied the ABA House of Delegates website and watched how a policy can become an official ABA policy. So yes, and I feel like I'm suited for this position because I like to research, so I'm very diligent, and I'm certified in Westlaw and Bloomberg, so I have the skills needed to research policies and see it through. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenna. All right, next we have Jennifer Hutchins, and your question is, what do you think was the most valuable or significant issue that the ABA Law Student Division did this past year, and why?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
I'm sorry.
The most significant.
What do you think was the most valuable or significant issue that the ABA Law Student Division tackled this past year, and why?
I do think working on the unification of the bar exam across the, trying to make it one uniform approach in attempt to get that resolved is probably one of the most important issues that was tackled this last year. Basically because it's attempting to unify something that is different all across the states and bringing it under one unified approach that everyone can get on board with.
Thank you. And next we will have Benjamin McLaughlin. Same question. What do you think was the most significant issue that the LSD tackled last year?
Okay. As far as I understand the question, you mean the most recent year? I'm going to go with those resolutions that they have drafted, which are coming out for vote this year. I think as far as us having membership on the nominating committee of the ABA that's a great idea. For us to have, we are the second largest division under the ABA. I think that's great policy for us to have somebody on the nominating committee picking these people that are going to be running the organization. And also the other resolution which they have drafted, which still is yet for a vote, which is trying to, reduce some of the costs and, which is, it's going to do away with the governors and stuff like that and go down to a smaller 7-person board, which is just a more streamlined approach. I think some of the reasons they cited were because they used that because communications used to be a problem back when that was enacted. But now, it's 2016. We're having a video chat right now. You don't necessarily have to have these, separate circuit meetings when the information can be disseminated from the top down so much quicker and so much more efficiently. It can save us money, and in the long run, that money can go to do other and better things for our members. So I think a couple of the best things that they've done here recently are draft those resolutions which are coming up for a vote this year.
Thank you, Benjamin. So next we have Renee, and your question is, what bill currently being considered by the House of Delegates do you think is the most important for law students?
Okay. Let's see. I do not have a direct answer to that question, but I can tell you that one of the things that I will be doing, if elected, is to thoroughly study both past resolutions and future resolutions, to understand what resolutions I should be supporting. And in connection with that, one of the things that I have done is I've spoken with some of our current people, like, for example, our chair-elect, or our incoming chair, Kareem, for example. It was important for me to understand if he's going to be leading our Law Student Division, for me to understand what's important to him and what initiatives he thinks are most pressing, right? So that I can make sure that I get a sense that this is somebody that I can work effectively with, and I do get that sense, and B, that his initiatives are are initiatives that would be important to me as well, and I believe they are. And so that's where I sit on that. So, for example, I know he's in the process of developing an action plan of certain initiatives, and he wants us to work as a team to achieve our goals, and I have full confidence in that. So I'll definitely engage with that.
Thank you, Renee. And John Weber, same question. Are there any bills or resolutions currently facing the House of Delegates that you think are particularly meaningful to law students?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of what I was saying in my last answer with when I talked to the people in the positions now, one of the things that they said was, we need you all to pick up where we left off. And so, yes, we've talked a lot about the UBE. It's got great momentum. It's in 29 states, I believe, at last count. That's a great thing. But we've got to keep it going. And we talk about UBE on the surface a lot. I want to hit on that a little bit deeper here in just a second. But as far as coming up, that we will be talking about in a couple of weeks is the paid externships. And like I said, that was the one that one of the current delegates said, we've been working on this for 3 years and we're close. There's still opposition, but we've got a lot of support for this, and we need to make sure that it gets passed. I think that both of those two issues come back to two overarching things that every single law student across this country is going to care about: student loans and jobs. Because ultimately, with the paid externship, for example, you will have the opportunity to do what you want to do rather than just have to do whatever's going to pay the bills for you, as one example. For the UBE, there's two ways that I would break that down. Student loan rates are up. My tuition just went up, and jobs are down. So with the UBE, you need to be able to practice wherever there are jobs, and that is making it more practical. Of course, on the other hand, it's also opening it up for people who want to go do social justice work and give back. I did Teach for America for 2 years, so I know what that's like to get up and move, to go do something where you're giving back. And I benefited from that tremendously. I grew as a professional and as a person. And the UBE would allow law students turned lawyers after graduation to do that. So again, making sure that law students upon graduation can find a place somewhere to get a job. Those things I think we really have to prioritize.
All right, John, time is up. And my phone is frozen.
So just a quick clarification. The UBE, as of the mid-year meeting this past February in San Diego, has become ABA policy. That is something there, and at this point, it's the state bar associations that need to put it through. Just to put that out there, because we have discussed that a couple times. I want to make sure that was clear.
Thank you, Kareem. So next we have Jenna, and your question is, if you are personally very against an issue, but the division takes a stand in favor of it, how would you vote?
I would be pragmatic about it. If it is something that is a person, are you asking if it's like a personal thing or that I'm against it?
Personal or from a policy standpoint, just you in your capacity disagree with this, but the division has taken a stand in favor of it.
Yes, I would still support it. I would think about everything that goes into it. And if it's at this point where the majority has voted for it, then it must be important. So I must put my views aside and support the majority on that one. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenna. And Jennifer, same question.
Sure, I would certainly want to spend my time fully researching what the topic is to see where the issue lies, where I'm on one side and the majority is on the opposing side, to try to figure out what the nuts and bolts are that are driving the differences in opinion. But at the end of the day, I think looking at what the motivating factors are and trying to determine how we can find a middle road, it's definitely better to see what is, what's motivating the other side that maybe you don't see, and trying to educate yourself and then making that best judgment call when you get to it.
Thank you, Jennifer. This next one will be for Renee. So as you may know, the Law Student Division will be presenting a restructuring plan to the Assembly at Annual. What are your thoughts on board restructuring, and do you support switching over to an exclusively national board or nationally elected board?
Yeah, no, I totally support the division position on that. For some of the reasons already stated. I think it brings what we do and how we do up to date. I think even more important than our structure is important, but I think, of course, even more important is our relationships, right? And certainly, it seems that is one of the strengths of the Law Student Division, is that we build relationships with other divisions particularly well, right? And I've heard that from a number of people. So I don't believe that's going to change. In fact, this will make those relationships, the strength of those relationships, even more powerful for the Law Student Division. That said, another really fun thing that I get to do, that I would get to do if I were a delegate, is while of course I'm there to learn and I'm there to listen, right? In addition to that, obviously we're elected because we bring certain talents, or we would be elected because we bring certain talents to bear, right? And so one of the things that I have a lot of experience with is, in fact, governance, right? In my consulting practice prior to law school, it's a lot of what I dealt with, right? And so I can certainly help use that experience to, inform both whatever recommendations we make, as well as inform my understanding of what the House of Delegates has decided to do, and maybe even help communicate that back and forth to the division, so that everybody understands exactly what we're doing and why.
Thank you, Renee. And John, same question. What are your thoughts on board restructuring, and do you support the nationally elected positions?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm, to my knowledge, the only person running that had the opportunity to vote for it already. Here's one thing that I think is important about this issue. And I want to also just note that I was not on board initially. I know that several people, you see Kareem nodding, several people had concerns, and they were very valid. And I think that really we came to a great solution. But I was able to vote my own position away. I voted to cut my position, which was tough because one, I think that I've done a good job. I think that other people in my roles can do good jobs, but it's not about that. And going back to that previous question about representation, that's one example of being able to put service over self. And so it wasn't about me, it was about the Law Student Division, and that's the way that I would represent them as delegates. So that means if I disagreed with something and the majority of law students wanted it and the board took a vote, certainly to tell me their opinion, then yeah, I've got to set aside my personal beliefs to vote the will of the Law Student Division. Now, that being said, that doesn't mean that you don't voice your opinion, which I certainly did throughout this debate. It doesn't mean, especially when we go out to the greater ABA, that we don't stand our ground, because, I have no intention of going as a law student and having someone tell me, what I'm going to do from outside of our division. Yeah, I'll take their wisdom and I'll work with them. Absolutely. But I'm going to stand my ground and make sure that I represent what the law students want. Now, back to the board.
Your time is up, John.
Okay.
All right, on to Benjamin. In that same vein, do you believe that the board should make efforts to ensure regional representation? And if so, how would you recommend going about achieving that goal?
Are you talking about like if the resolution passes, or?
Yes, assuming that the board restructures to make it all nationally elected positions, how do you feel that that regional representation factors into that?
Okay, well, there's still different ways that we can go about it, but the main reason that they adopted this, from what I can tell just from my reading of it, was that, it was an effort to kind of cut down the travel costs, and also they were having those regional meetings, and they were having 20 to 25 people show up for a region that could have potentially 4 or 5 states, potentially 15 to 20 law schools. I think the best way that those governors will still be there. They can be used to disseminate some information. I think. I mean, it's gonna have to be a slow transition going from a 23 member board down to 7. And I think the regional ties still kind of fit too, because we are separated by circuits in this nation, and that just goes by the federal circuits. So I think it's a good idea to kind of keep some kind of regional representation there. Now, whether or not it's a voting representation is a different thing. Now, if it's just purely to kind of trickle down the information from the top, as long as it can be as efficient as it should be, I don't see that there's a problem with keeping some of those people around. Just because you're cutting those positions doesn't mean that those people should not continue to be involved in Law Student Division. I don't think it should just be a clear cut, hey, you were here and thanks for your help, but you just voted yourself out. I don't think it should be like that. I think everybody should still have ample opportunity to be able to participate somehow, and help out as much as they can. I, for one, did get a lot of emails from our circuit governor, and they were very informative, and they kind of kept me abreast of information and things going on in the Law Student Division. I think that's still a good idea, and we need to look at some potential possibilities and ways that we can go about doing that, going forward if this resolution were to pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Benjamin. Jennifer, same question. How do you think that regional representation should factor into board restructuring, and how would you go about achieving your goals?
Well, I think the overall goal behind the restructuring was to reduce cost and waste. So, with the proposed idea that I think it was, saving over $160,000, I would hope that money could be used to develop new or, reinvigorate maybe current and existing resources that could be better utilized by the regional representatives that maybe aren't being promoted as well right now, or just aren't even known about, or they don't have the funding to be as, as great of a program as they could be. So I would like to think that with that kind of a substantial savings, something could be done to make the ABA, maybe more regionally appealing, attractive, informative, so that more people have access, and it becomes more of a resource for those people as well.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next, we're going to go back to Benjamin. What do you think is the most important aspect of ABA Day, and why do you believe that it is important for law students?
Okay, I think just the idea in general of getting the name out there, join the ABA when you're a law student, become involved. It's the ABA is one of the most premier professional organizations that is out there for any profession in the nation. And the ABA House, who whichever one of us is elected delegate will actually represent, has been called, the greatest legislative making body in the nation, if not the world. I think, having ABA Day and increasing awareness to law students. It's like I mentioned that earlier. We have 70,000 members in the Law Student Division. It is free membership, but there's a lot more law students out there that we're not reaching. I think ABA Day is one of those things that can kind of, go out there and reach those people, make those connections. I think it just takes a little bit more. I think we need a little bit better marketing or something like that. Some kind of ways to get a little bit more participation from law students. I know for me, the first year was tough. My head was in a book pretty much the whole year. I didn't have a whole lot of time for doing a whole lot of extracurricular activities. I was just trying to, keep my head above water and do well in school. Unfortunately, I was fortunate enough to do well in school. But I think, keeping the law students abreast of, issues going on in the profession and, what we can expect, that's kind of the ABA's job, to make sure that we know. And that's, it's more importantly, the Law Student Division's job to make sure that these students, that we as law students know what's going on in the profession, and that we can react, to changes in the market trends. I think that ABA Day, it's a great idea.
Sorry, Benjamin, you're at time.
Thank
you. Renee, same question. Renee? I think we lost Renee.
Wait, no? Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah.
Can you hear me now? Sorry about that. I had trouble unmuting my phone. Yeah. Anyway, so repeat the question for me, please, so I can answer properly.
Yes. What do you think is the most important aspect of ABA Day, and why do you believe is important for law students?
I think the most important part of it is that it brings everyone together, the state, the local, to focus on policy in the place where policy is arguably, the most important, right? It seems a lot of policy trickles down from DC, that's for sure. It's most important to law students because, a lot that happens, a lot that the ABA, well, pretty much everything I would say that the ABA does impacts law students either currently or in the future. And this is one thing that I wanted to mention, which is that I see the role of the law student representative to the House of Delegates as a pivotal one because all of us here, we're only law students for like just a very short period of time, right? So the decisions we make as a delegate to the House of Delegates, and for that matter, decisions we make as a law student division are not really going to impact us or our cohort as much as they're going to impact students who come after us, right? As well as how they might impact us in practice, right, as practicing attorneys. So for me, it's really important to keep that perspective, right? And I think ABA Day is helpful with that. And it's funny because that you mentioned ABA Day because I once met Paulette Brown, our great leader, just about right before she started her bar year, right? And this was right after the ABA Day and right before she started bar year, and she was particularly enthusiastic about it. And I really liked sort of how she seemed to understand sort of the fullness of what that experience brings, right? So that it has to do with law students and it has to do with practicing attorneys. And one other thing that I wanted to mention, unless I'm out of time, is that...
Yeah, I'm sorry, you're out of time.
Okay.
All right, on to John. What's an area of innovation beyond policy initiatives that you think the Law Student Division should look into? So by this, I mean, we started a podcast recently looking into sort of innovative ways to reach out to law students. What is an initiative that, or some sort of innovative idea you would like to see?
Sure. I think that we have taken great strides so far this year to improve the way that the ABA interacts with law students. That is vitally important. One thing in particular that is important to me, I am a member of the elections committee. I've had to recuse myself since running for election. But one thing that I think would absolutely make the ABA more relevant to law students across the country is by allowing candidates like us to talk to law students. because we are talking about wanting to be representatives. We're talking about wanting to do what the Law Student Division's will is. Well, I'd like to find out what that is. And not only does that help whoever is elected do their job better and be prepared on day one to represent in the way that they will once they become elected. Not only does it do that, it also helps law students feel connected. When I was in other organizations, I was the president of a statewide organization. National candidates would come to me asking for my vote, asking what mattered to me, and we worked together through that. That connected me and my members to the national board much more. So I think opening up elections and campaigns is really important. You think about politics today, Obama, grassroots outreach. We're trying to increase membership. Let's let law student divisions, especially those incentivized to reach out, contact law students. For me personally, I would love to reach out to SBA presidents to know what matters on your campus. I know what matters on my campus. I know what matters within my circuit because I've got a unique capacity. But reaching out and really figuring out what they would like for me to do throughout the campaign, and ultimately, if I have the ability to be, if I'm lucky enough to be elected.
I'm sorry you're at time, but finish your thought.
Instead of finishing my thought, I'm going to say, Chase, sorry for always going up on time. Don't feel bad about cutting me off.
All right. So next we have Jennifer Hutchins. Same question. And that is, what is some innovation beyond policy initiatives that you think that the Law Student Division should look into?
I think just finding a way to kind of get across to law students, because I do think you're dealing with a certain subset of the population who maybe are typically younger and not thinking all the way down 10, 15 years down the line, but just getting law students to realize that the ABA isn't a law student thing, quote unquote. It's a lifelong lawyer thing. It's always going to be there. It's a name that has tremendous significance in the legal field, and it has a tremendous amount of leverage and lobbying power, and that they get a very unique ability to access it, certainly for free as a law student, but that it's a resource that, they can call upon again and again. I think to put it along the same lines as there's no one who graduates who doesn't know what Westlaw is. It would be nice to get to where there's not one student who graduates law school who doesn't know the ABA and, understand what it's about and how it can work for them, and what a tremendous resource it can be for them, 10, 15, 20 years down the road.
Thank you, Jennifer. And since I think this is such an important question, I think that the Law Student Division is always about innovation, finding new ways to help benefit the lives of law students. I'm going to ask Jenna the same question.
Thank you. So I put some thought into this, and I think a Law Student Division app would be pretty cool, because I'm always browsing the ABA Law Student Division website, reading the blogs every day, or I really, really like the Student Lawyer magazine. But because we only get an issue every 3 months, with somehow updating the law students without waiting for the magazine, that would be cool, because I usually look at the section where you guys give us tips for final exams. And last semester, I read an article about using Microsoft OneNote as an exam prep, and I used that. I made an A on my contracts exam. So I really love, advice that you give me. I always take it to heart. So however we can get quicker information updates from you guys, rather than waiting 3 months or 2 months for the magazine subscription, it'd be awesome. Thank you.
All right, guys. So we're 3 minutes from the end of the hour, but we started 5 minutes late. So I'm going to do one last round of question. You're all going to get the same one. We've discussed some really serious, heavy policy stuff. You've all given some very thoughtful answers. So I figured we'd do something a little lighter for the end. So the last question is, which superhero would you be and why? I will also accept if you have been playing Pokemon Go, which Pokemon would you be and why? But that's, your dealer's choice. We will start with John Weber. We'll go from the bottom up.
Sorry, can you hear me? Okay. So thank you for the question. I, believe it or not, have not played Pokemon Go yet. Seen too many people biking on the streets with their phone like this close, and looks like a recipe for disaster. But I loved Pokemon back in the day, so maybe it's my time. All right, I would say let's go with Batman because he was somebody that gave I don't know. I guess I feel for him because he gave back to his city in a way and had to be innovative in his things because he didn't have a superpower. So he went out there. I don't know. That's what I got.
Well, thank you, John. I am also a pretty big Batman fan, although I'll save my personal opinions for later. Renee.
I am I'm a superhero fan. I'm probably a bigger superhero fan of Marvel Comics. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. But, but Marvel heroes as opposed to DC heroes. However,
we're not all perfect.
That's right. That's exactly right. But honestly, it's if you read my my statement, my candidate statement, I referred to my mother as a superhero, and so this was a really easy question for me because really she is the greatest superhero that I've ever known. I grew up in sort of a neighborhood that was tough at times, and there's no question we had some tough things that our families had to deal with, all kinds of things that no family should ever have to deal with, and certainly no child should have to deal with. But I tell you what, my mother was always there, always gave 120%. If there's anybody that I've learned how to sort of be consistently successful from, it's my mother. And so, she was the one who, worked, 40 hours a week as a nurse. She worked nights in order to be there for us, right? And then she would work nights. She'd show up in the morning. She'd have breakfast ready for us. She'd get us to school. She'd take a nap. She'd pick us up from school. She'd have dinner ready for us every single night. And then she'd go off to work at her job 40 hours a week. And then she'd wake up the next day and do it all over again, and did it flawlessly every single time. And so she's the most amazing superhero I've ever known, without a shadow of a doubt. Nobody in Marvel Comics can touch my nose. So there you go.
Thank you, Renee.
Yeah.
Benjamin.
Okay, I've yet to play Pokemon Go either. I'm taking a class this summer. I just want to make sure I do school first before I play too much. I know those things can be addictive. I would actually pick my superhero from the Marvel universe. I would pick Spider-Man, simply because one of the great tenets, if you've ever read the comic, is with great power comes great responsibility. Here's a guy who is, just down on his luck kind of college, photographer, and next thing you know, he's transformed. He's got all this superpowers. And it's the faults of man is that learning how to control those powers and use them for good. And I think that's a key ingredient in life, is that having a good balance between, what you've been given and what you can do with that. And I think that's something that will be, valuable in this position. Yes, we'll be voting on the House of Delegates, but at the same time, we need to represent the Law Student Division. No matter how I may personally feel on an issue, I need to go with what the majority of the people, in the majority of the people and our members and our board want me to go with. I think that true leadership, involves not running away from those who disagree with you, but embracing them and seeking to understand their point of view. So like I said, I would be Spider-Man just because I think there were some great life lessons in that comic. Thank you.
Thank you, Benjamin. Next, we have Jenna Lee.
Hi, thank you. I know a lot about the ABA and a lot about law school, but unfortunately, I don't know anything about superheroes. So, I guess, thank you.
All right. Next, we have Jennifer Hutchins.
This is like the worst possible question I could get asked. I know nothing about superheroes either, but I guess I would have to go with Wonder Woman because that's the first one that's come to mind. And I am a mom of 3 kiddos. I'm coming back to law school after having, like I said, worked in the private healthcare sector for a long time and trying to juggle a little bit of everything. So I definitely feel like some days I have to get my Wonder Woman mojo on. So that would be, I guess, the one I would have to choose.
All right. Thank you all. That brings us to a wrap, unless any of you have questions for me or Kareem. However, we are at the end of time. So if there are questions, Kareem, do you have anything to say before we end?
No, not really. Just generally, thank you all for your thoughtful comments. It's obviously you all prepared a lot for this. I'm really excited to meet you all in person in ABA and excited to see how this election goes. So just thank you all generally for taking the time out of your day to be on here. Yeah, that's about it. Chase, you can take us away, brother.
I echo everything Kareem said. You're all very impressive. You all gave very thoughtful answers, and I appreciate you all for taking the time to come here tonight. And I look forward to seeing you at Annual.
So I
Thank
do wish
you.
someone took the
Thank you,
Pokemon.
guys.
Thank you much.